On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area, welcome to our 2021 general election candidate forum featuring the candidates for City of Spokane Valley position number 5. That's the Spokane Valley Council. I'm Ann Murphy, your moderator, and Michael Bell of the League is the timer. Election day for the 2021 general election is Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. Ballots will be mailed to all registered voters about 3 weeks before Election Day and must be postmarked or deposited in conveniently located ballot boxes no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day. You can register to vote by mail or online by October 25th, 2021, or in person on Election Day at the Spokane County Elections Office, 1033 West Gardner Avenue, or at Center Place, 2426 North Discovery Place, Spokane Valley. For other questions about casting your ballot or information about the candidates, contact the Spokane County Elections Office at 509-477-2320 or visit their website, spokanecounty.org/elections, or on the League of Women Voters online voters guide, vote411.org. I will be asking the candidates questions that have been formulated by the League's Voter Services Committee, and will ask as many questions as time allows. Before the questions begin, the candidates will have up to 30 seconds to introduce themselves and tell the voters why they are running. They will then have up to 1 minute to answer each question with additional time for rebuttal or follow-up questions as appropriate. And then each candidate will have an opportunity for up to a 60-second closing statement. The first speaker will alternate with each question. And the candidates are Wayne Fenton and Pam Haley. So starting with you, Ms. Haley, you'll have 30 seconds to tell us why you're running for Spokane Valley City Council.
Hi, well, I'm Pam Haley. I'm running for re-election for position 5. I've actually been on the council for 6 years, and I'm running because we have a lot more work to do. We got started, we've gotten a lot of things accomplished. We still have a lot to do. I love Spokane Valley, and I just want to help as much as I can. We just, especially with COVID, things got kind of held back a little bit. So I would like to be able to continue the work.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fenton, your turn.
My name is Wayne Fenton. I'm running for City Council of Spokane Valley, position number 5. I am a husband of 43 years. I'm a father of 6 children, a grandfather of 16, and actually number 17 is on the way. We found out yesterday. I'm running for City Council because of the lack of response from the City Council during the COVID shutdown period back in 2020. And I feel that although they aren't doing things too poorly, there are things that should be a higher priority than what they are doing. Their constituents should be number 1 on their list, and keeping businesses open and thriving in the Spokane Valley is the major concern. That's why I'm running.
Thank you, Mr. Fenton. Well, let's go ahead. You both mentioned COVID responses in your opening comments. So, Mr. Fenton, you started to list some things related to COVID that you would see better. And so we'll then ask Ms. Haley what else she sees happening. So go ahead and 60 seconds to respond to more what you would do more for COVID response.
More for COVID response?
Yeah.
I feel like,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, that's a pretty tough question. It's pretty broad. I thought it'd be a little more fine-tuned.
Fine-tune it then.
Well, okay, what happened and what should happen are 2 different things. We've seen that the governor has taken things a little bit beyond reality and is tyrannical in his response to COVID-19. And with that in mind, the City Council should have fought for the businesses and citizens of Spokane Valley in order to have more of a localized response for it. here we are really close to Idaho. It was totally open. And in our area here, some places less than 5 miles from the border, from our city, we had businesses closed, and many businesses have closed permanently during that time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fenton. Miss Haley, could you go ahead and talk about how the Spokane Valley responded, what maybe else could, should have, needs to be done?
Sure. Well, I think that there's a misunderstanding on who has control over who shuts down businesses and who doesn't. We are not a state agency. We did make our position known that we were afraid that it was going to cause businesses to close down. I'm also not a medical doctor, so I couldn't make those kinds of decisions based on science even. What we did do is we took the CARES money, we got it out to all the businesses we could, we got it out to citizens. We tried as hard as we could to get it out very quickly so that they wouldn't be left hanging for a period of time. We did rental assistance, utility assistance, mortgage assistance. We gave money to small businesses. We did everything that we locally were able to do. But there's certain rules and regulations that you can't overstep, and you do have to follow those. Some of those restaurants and things that stayed open, Elle and I fight them, and they ended up having to close. And if we had told them to stay open, that same thing would have happened to all the businesses.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move into some other areas of things that are happening. Spokane Valley's population has grown roughly 18% since it was incorporated in 2003, and housing availability has not kept up with this increase, resulting in higher home prices and rising rents. So to address this, earlier this year, the Spokane Valley City Council adopted a housing action plan looking at the amount and types of housing that will be needed in the future and how to meet these needs. So what are your thoughts on promoting the parts of the plan, a variety of types of housing, as well as the incentives that are named in that plan to encourage such construction? We'll start with you, Ms. Haley.
Okay, yeah, sure. So we did open it up for lots of different housing. We are hoping to use some of the CARES money that we have not yet decided what to do with, and possibly partner with some builders. Liberty Lake's doing it. Kendall Yards is a great example of partnering with a builder in the hopes that we can encourage some more development in the valley. The other thing that we're trying to do is just make it easier for people to build, especially single family homes and hopefully condos. Condos are a great way to get into a starter home, which is next to impossible now, but it's not rent based. And so if somebody had been able to purchase a condo instead of moving into an apartment a couple of years ago, they wouldn't be facing that 32% increase that we read about in the paper for rent. So I'd like to be able to get people into starter homes so that they have that equity to build on, and they can actually, become neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fenton, your thoughts?
Well, there are several things that drive the price of homes. One is the demand. The others are overregulation of the government. 23.8% of the cost of building a new home is related to government regulation. Also, taxes. People don't understand, especially renters, that they think they can just vote for a tax increase on anything and it just, oh, my landlord pays for that. They don't understand that the landlords have responsibilities of the mortgage on their property. They have the responsibility of maintenance, and they also have the responsibility of those taxes. You reduce those things and reduce the regulations and reduce the taxes, then housing prices can come down naturally.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's, in talking a little bit more about Spokane Valley's continuing growth, what zoning or other changes would you support to control urban sprawl and create more walkable neighborhoods? Mr. Fenton, we'll start with you.
Walkable neighborhoods, to me, that you can do everything you want. You can have extra sidewalks. You can do whatever you please there. But if people don't feel safe outside their home because of crime and other aspects, you won't be able to walk those neighborhoods. So there's so many things that are interrelated in all these concerns that we have. And that's one thing that doesn't happen in our city government at the time, at the current time, is that they don't look at the big picture. They micromanage a small thing, and then they cause more problems than they actually solve.
Okay, Ms. Haley, your thoughts on zoning changes in walkable neighborhoods?
Sure. So I mentioned before partnering with the developer. So Liberty Lake is partnering with the gentleman that did the Kendall Yards. So that is going to be a walkable neighborhood. Combining storefronts and mixed use on the corridor, which is where we've been trying to drive the development into places that the buses regularly go to, that you can walk to places, you could go to the store. I think Kendall Yards is a great example of that. I would like to respond to the overregulation that we're referring to. Most of that's coming from the state. As a city, we don't have a lot of regulations, and as a city, we only receive 10% of our property taxes. So it'd be very difficult to cut that down and have an impact for people.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, let's go sort of the opposite where we are here. Homelessness is a problem for the entire region. So would like to have you describe how you see the unsheltered in Spokane Valley and how the city should address that. Should we have a regional approach, or do you have some other ideas? We'll start with you, Ms. Haley. 1 minute.
So, thank you. I think it needs to be a regional approach because there's no walls and no barriers. So our people who are experiencing homelessness will often cross into the city of Spokane and vice versa. So I think it's very overwhelming at this point, and I think it's something that needs to be done. So we've been communicating with our people who are homeless, and what they've told us is they're afraid to go to downtown shelters. They are trying to not use drugs, trying not to drink alcohol. When they go to the shelter, there's drugs and alcohol there. They get beat up, they go to sleep, everything they own is stolen. So I do think there needs to be some emphasis put into some type of housing that's actually safe, that doesn't allow the drugs and alcohol inside, and makes it safe for everybody to be able to stay in there. Where that's built, I don't know. We're looking at that right now. We're going through all of our areas and trying to determine where that can happen. In the meantime, we have contracted with a couple of shelters in downtown Spokane to get beds for those who want the beds.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fenton?
Well, once again, you touch on something that is a problem. It's not safe. But if you continue to take funds away from the residents and the citizens of the Spokane Valley to pay for homeless, that's not going to be a good thing. That more people are going to become homeless. I believe that people need to take responsibility for their actions, for their deeds, and everything that's happened. I believe in personal accountability. I'm personally responsible for everything that's happened to me in my life. I empathize with those that are out there, but I believe that it is not the city that should really be doing this. It's the private charities. Union Gospel Mission has a great plan, and their plan works. If you go back and look at all the success that they've had, so taking money to build a bureaucracy within the Spokane Valley is not the way to go.
Okay, thank you.
Put that money in the hands of the private charities.
Thank you, Mr. Fenton. Now, we're going to move into public safety. You've talked about that. The Spokane County Board of Commissioners officially reestablished the Spokane Regional Law and Justice Council earlier this summer, reducing the size of the advisory council from 25 to 18 and establishing a racial equity committee, as well as reducing the city of Spokane Valley's direct involvement with that council. Given the changes in the SRLJC, how will you as a city council member address the disproportionate impact of the justice system on people of color? What initiatives do you propose to create a fair, just, and equitable criminal justice system? Mr. Fenton.
once again, people are responsible for their actions. I don't care if you're green, blue, black, white, Caucasian, you name it. Those people that whoever commits the crime should take care of the responsibility of serving the time. People need to be held responsible, and that's what's not happening at this time. I have personally been a victim of crime, and all they do is say, here you go, here's a report, send it to your insurance company. Well, my insurance rates go up, nothing happens, nobody investigates, nobody takes care of anything, and nobody pays the price for it except me or the people of the Spokane Valley. So there you are. It is not a color thing. I am not racist. I think I don't care what you are. You're responsible for your own.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Haley, your thoughts.
Hi, so we actually have a pretty good working relationship with the county commissioners. And I think that they will let us be involved. I was on the jail task force, and we'll probably be on that again, or someone from the city will be. We also have a pretty close relationship with our sheriff's department. You know, we contract with the county for safety. And I think that they're committed to all those things you mentioned. We've had the discussions, they're hard discussions. We're continuing to have them. But they are committed to being fair and equal and doing their job as best they can. It's
Okay.
hard to be a police officer right now, particularly.
Okay, I'm sorry, I cut you off a little bit. Did you have more you wanted to say?
That's okay. I was just saying it's difficult to be a police officer, and crime is up, and we can't find people who want to become officers, in part from some of the things that the state of Washington put into effect that is going out to all the smaller communities and tying the hands of the police.
Can I
Okay,
say something about that?
I'll give you each 30 more seconds then. Mr. Fenton, 30 seconds.
It's time for the city of Spokane Valley City Council to fight back against the governor's orders. We can become sanctuary for people who are willing to fight back. Stand your ground against crime. We shouldn't be afraid and have to cower in our homes. Especially women. Women are out there and they're the ones that are most vulnerable to this, women and children. So why do we have to kowtow to the criminal element? We shouldn't have to.
Thank you for that. Ms. Haley, you have 30 more seconds as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so I don't believe that anybody's kowtowing to the criminals. I think that as a state, our state constitution requires the cities follow the laws that are passed by the legislatures. These were not directives from Governor Inslee. These were overwhelmingly supported by the state legislature. We are fighting against it. We're telling them we're not Seattle. This is why this doesn't work in our community. But we do have to work within the rules and regulations that we have to follow. You can't go outside and expect change.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll start with Ms. Haley on this one. How should Spokane Valley utilize available state funding for roads and other development projects in the valley? Ms. Haley.
We're aggressively asking for state funding for some of our bridges and roads. We have a railroad that basically divides city of Spokane Valley in half. There's a big delay on many of those crossings. And so what that impacts is if you have a fire truck on the wrong side of the railroad and you're stalled, you can be there for really important minutes. Same thing with an ambulance. So we are attempting to get those. We've got Barker done. Pines is funded. So we just need to continue to get the money so that we can make our roads safer.
Okay, Mr. Fenton.
I agree that funds can be used to better the road systems and traffic flows. But what doesn't need to happen is we don't need to fix roads that are not in need of repair just because we have the funds to do it. And that's what's happened here in the valley recently. Come to mind the construction at Montgomery and Argonne. I go by that intersection every day on the way to work, and there was nothing wrong with it. And it's actually rougher now than it was before, even though now it has 8 inches of gravel under it and 14 inches of concrete at a cost of over $3 million. That was unnecessary at the time. It may need to be done at some time, but it wasn't necessary now. Do what is necessary and don't take the funds, because that money is not free. It comes from somewhere. Those state funds come from the citizens of the state. The federal money that comes in comes from our tax dollars. It is not free money, so don't spend it unless it's absolutely necessary.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Haley, you have more?
I do.
I'll give
Thank
you each 30 more seconds.
Okay, thank you. So sometimes when you look at a road, you don't realize it's failing. Sometimes when you drive across the road, you don't realize it's failing. We have been checking our roads for depth, for strength, for everything else. And the reality is it's much easier to fix it before it has completely failed, because if it completely fails, then you're going to have to do a complete reconstruction process, which costs way more than the $3 million that we spent to fix that intersection that was not operating appropriately.
Okay.
They took that road down to below grade. There was no way it would have cost more later, except for maybe inflation, but it certainly would not have taken any more work to do it.
Okay, clearly a difference of opinion on that piece. So we'll move on to another topic. The city of Spokane is developing a sustainability action plan with environmental policy goals to ensure a healthier, more resilient community. Their city council will consider the final plan this fall. Is there any thought, and how could Spokane Valley achieve similar goals here? Mr. Fenton.
Well, I'm all for the environment. We don't need to pollute, but we don't need to go overboard with regulation. That only adds costs and raises taxes. We should do what is necessary, do what is frugal, and do it in the right way, but not unnecessarily burden the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Haley.
So we actually are talking about working on a sustainability plan. We had a lot of things hit us all at once that came mainly from the legislature. So we've been working through them kind of piece by piece as a committee. I think that we have done anything that we can do in the things we build. There's also a directive that we go all electric by a certain date from the legislature. If that continues, we have to take into account all those legislative decisions into the plan that we create.
Okay, thank you. And now to another part of our one's life. What is your vision for future parks and recreation in Spokane Valley? And we'll start with you, Ms. Haley.
So you have me a little bit on that. There's the parks. I think parks are important. I love parks. We did purchase some Flora property for a park that I actually believe was the only council member who voted against it. Not because I don't believe in parks, but we were doing this in the middle of COVID. The property was owned by WashDOT. WashDOT told us the price would never go up and that we would get the first right of refusal at any time. So at that point, I feel like we need to be more conservative about how we spend the extra money that we have and make sure that we're doing the things we need to do, like road preservation, infrastructure, things like that before we buy more parks. We have multiple parks right now that have not been completed. So I would like to also complete them before purchasing more land that needs to be completed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fenton.
I also love parks. I go to Plants Ferry quite often to go walking or jogging. And it's a good thing to have parks. However, the Spokane Valley has quite a few at this point. And I think that what they need to do instead of spending money on more parks is to partner up with the schools. We have schools in every neighborhood around the Spokane Valley, and those can be utilized, especially in the summer when school's out, for a park-like atmosphere. If we develop a plan where they can work, the Parks Department can work with the schools, we can cut costs and we can still have open space and freedom to do whatever we want to do on a recreational basis.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll come to your closing statements. You will each have, as we agreed on before, 60 seconds for your closing statement. And we'll start with you, Ms. Haley.
Hi, thank you so much, Anne. Well, one of the things I'd like to say is the primary, nobody voted. It was such a low turnout that I don't believe that necessarily the citizens of Spokane Valley's voices were heard in that primary. So I would really like to encourage people to get out and vote, tell your neighbors to vote, tell anybody you talk to vote. It's really important. It's a responsibility we have and actually a privilege. Like I said before, I have been on the council for 6 years. I have a master's in business. I have run multi-million-dollar budgets, and that's what we have at City Hall that we need to work on. I just sincerely believe that the City of Spokane Valley is different. We're a different group of people. We're a different community. We love the community. I graduated from Central Valley a million years ago, and I swear all my classmates moved right back. We all left, but then we all came right back. So it's just an interesting community that I love.
All right, thank you, Ms. Haley. Mr. Fenton, you have 60 seconds.
Well, I am from Southern Idaho, and I lived there during my high school days and graduated from there. But since then, I've moved to Spokane, got married. I've been a resident of Spokane Valley for over 43 years. It's my home now. There is no better place to be. I've traveled throughout the world in my career as a technical specialist and a problem solver and a developer in the industry. Been on almost every continent except Antarctica. And this place is the best place to be. Spokane, our home. The thing that is worrisome to me, my wife talked about moving to Idaho, and I know there's nowhere to run anymore. We have to fight for what is ours here. We have to make the best of what we have and keep it best for our family. My whole life has been trying to solve technical problems.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fenton. This concludes our 2021 General Election Candidate Forum featuring the candidates Pam Haley and Wayne Fenton for the Spokane City Council position number 5. The league has scheduled other forums, and links to those forums are available on our website, lwvspokane.org. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, thank you to our candidates for participating in this forum. We hope this has given you, the voters, information that will help you make an informed decision when returning your ballots by 8 p.m. Election Day, Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. For more information, visit our website, lwvspokane.org, or our online voters pamphlet guide, vote411.org. We thank you, and as has been stated before, be sure to vote. Be a voter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.